Good afternoon and welcome to my video presentation on the atomic dome and how disaster has affected public perception of the nuclear power industry. I'll be doing this by comparing how disasters have affected nuclear power in a variety of cultures across the world, as well as how mining disasters have affected coal power in my home state of West Virginia, so that I can get a good understanding of how different cultures respond to disasters and different industries. Starting off, the atomic dome, it was the only building to last until today from prior to the atomic bombs being detonated at Hiroshima. It was originally an exhibition hall and now it is just a frame, but it serves as a monument towards peace and moving forward past the events of World War II and surviving some of the most terrifying warfare possible. A brief history of nuclear disasters. So, for this presentation, I'll be focusing primarily on three: Chernobyl in 1986, Fukushima in 2011, as well as 3 Mile Island in 1979. From these graphs, we can see how each of these disasters have affected the nuclear industry in the respective regions. Over here, you can see that the share of electricity provided by nuclear energy in Japan fell to zero following the Fukushima disaster, almost immediately following. Over here, you can see that in 1979, we had a peak for reactors under construction. And 1979, of course, was when we saw the 3 Mile Island disaster. So reactors under construction in North America fell dramatically, and shortly thereafter, following Chernobyl, similar events occurred where the number of reactors under construction fell dramatically in Western and Central and Eastern Europe. Now we can compare that to the impacts of disaster on the coal industry. For this project, we'll be looking at just a few coal disasters. However, unlike nuclear disasters, coal disasters have been extremely common in America over the past 200 years and yet very forgotten. So, for some examples, we're looking at the aftermath of the Buffalo Creek disaster. It was caused by a dam collapsing, flooding the valley underneath and completely destroying the West Virginia town of Saunders, which used to be in this valley right here. And then we will also be looking at the largest U.S. mining disaster, which was, Monongah, and it occurred in 1907 and it killed at least 350 people. However, estimates are much higher due to poor record keeping at the time. And often, many miners would take their children actually into the mine with them, and that would be left undocumented. I'll also be covering some other mining disasters, such as Farmington in 1968 and Eccles in 1914. So, looking at the impacts of these disasters, you can see that the only major downfalls in coal production in the US happened due to the end of both world wars, because obviously less energy is needed when we're not in wartime, and then also during the sudden realization of the climate crisis in the 21st century. So, if we actually look at when these disasters happened, you can see very minimal impact on the production of coal in the US in 1907 with Monongah, 1914 with Eccles, 1968 with Farmington, and 1972 with Buffalo Creek. We can see that the production of coal in the US just continues to increase. Comparing that to the dramatic decline of nuclear reactors following similar disasters such as Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima, you can really see how these disasters have been treated differently. How Hiroshima has affected the perception of nuclear disasters. While nuclear disasters are in fact disasters, public perception of them is often exacerbated by the nuclear detonation at Hiroshima, because people often see similarities between what might happen at a nuclear disaster and what might happen at a nuclear detonation, and might think they are much more similar than they are. And that can often contribute to the fear of nuclear warfare being also attributed to like fear of nuclear power. And we can see over the past decades that fear of nuclear power in general has shown up in media such as in Godzilla or the Fallout franchises, really showing um, how we express like our fear of the nuclear power industry. Legacy of the atomic dome. While the atomic bombs did almost annihilate everything in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I find it very interesting that our monument to peace following World War II is the one thing that survived, and it really shows resilience, strength, and hope rather than focusing on the bleakness of the ideas of nuclear war. And I find it very like encouraging that like you can take on this philosophy surrounding the atomic dome and how it's really surviving through such hardships. Closing thoughts. First of all, thank you for watching this video. Looking at both these topics and comparing how nuclear disasters affected the nuclear industry and how mining disasters affected the coal industry, they're really important to me since I am a native West Virginian and also a nuclear engineering major. If you have any questions, please ask. I'm sure future me will be happy to answer them. Thank you.